I do recognise the need for housing, of course I do. But housing in what? I mean, if you have your housing at the expense of all nature, then you're going to have housing in which people are extremely unhealthy and unhappy. Well, it started to become a place where people wanted to walk before 2020. But in lockdown, absolutely, it became completely treasured.
I know Bradford and Avon has other green spaces. We have Barton Farm, but the beauty of the old golf course is that it's very wild. Children can run about without the fear of being mown down by cars.
In a park, you're always aware of a kind of municipal overarching control, which you wouldn't have in a wild space. Well, I believe that most people in Bradford on Avon really value our access to nature. It's one of the things that we treasure as a location.
It means a lot. I'm sorry, I'm feeling quite teary when you ask that. I'd be very, very sad if it was taken away.
Wild spaces are actually very useful to farmers if they are managed properly. They could dispense with a lot of their chemical treatments on the crops because these wild areas were acting as reservoirs for natural predators to migrate into the crops and keep the pests of the crops down. So it can actually be very beneficial to have a wild area like the golf course.
England is one of the most nature-depleted countries in the world, and I find that shameful. And I know when Sir David Attenborough talks about it, he finds it shameful too. And he has enjoined us to say, look, if we're one of the most nature-depleted countries in the world because we were one of the first industrialised countries, then we have a responsibility to put this right and to demonstrate to the world that we can use our intelligence to put this right. And so we can be proud of that. We can be proud of turning it round, but we're not going to be proud of losing it. This is an opportunity for us to be really proud of this county.
And I think it's really vital that, as more and more of our urban areas become more organised and more built upon, and our green spaces are becoming increasingly squeezed just through all sorts of pressures that are happening all over the country, any areas that can be left to be more natural, more open, more as they were sort of originally left and intended before we started developing across them, is only going to be beneficial.
The sort of wild space that it is, and I've always thought that's quite special, that they've let the old golf course run its course, almost like it's like a self-driven rewilding project.
Many local authorities in England have been instructed to have a plan on their local nature recovery strategy. The issues that are coming from climate change, like flooding, all of those become more difficult if you start to build on your blue-green spaces.
I spoke to various people in Bradford that have lived here all their lives, and they told me it was the town tip for quite a long time, and so I collected various articles about the tip, and it seems there is quite a lot of toxic waste buried there. It was designated as the town tip for the Bradford and Avon, but apparently other lorries came from further afield to dump their waste.
Bradford on Avon was a pioneer in the development of rubber, which is the most extraordinary substance. The bad legacy is that those chemicals that were involved in that are in the ground. But if we start digging that up and building on it, who knows what it will release? And so that's an unknown that I think we shouldn't tamper with, really.
Runoff into rivers and canals is a big problem. Any runoff, particularly from old landfill sites, is not a great idea. It has a very negative effect on the wildlife. In particular, it gets into the base of the food chain, the algae, for instance, and then up through the crustaceans and the fish, and ultimately to birds and mammals like the otters.
I know that we do need new housing, but I think that it wouldn't be affordable housing if they did build on there, because it would cost such a lot of money to deal with the toxic waste that we're not talking about social housing or young people that live in Bradford and Avon.
Bradford and Avon falls under something called an SAC, a special area of conservation protection for the very large bat populations which are in the caves in this vicinity. And there's a certain number of bat species that use the river and the trees adjacent to the river as feeding stations.
It's a dark space, which is very important. There aren't many dark spaces left in Bradford and Avon. So for bats, it's wonderful.
Okay, so around the golf course, talking from experience, because I've photographed down there for many years now. I've now followed 3 generations of kingfishers there. It's fantastic down there. And then when doing these kingfishers, I would often see a lot of other stuff on the river. And that led me on to finding beavers down there, which was amazing. I mean, I never thought I'd see them around here locally in my lifetime. So discovering them at the back end of last year was quite phenomenal. I've seen obviously snakes like grass snakes and slow worms are definitely a protected species. I've seen stoats down there, little owls, especially towards the edges of the abandoned golf course. There's badgers there. The badger set there is the biggest I've seen around here ever. And that's obviously really important. They're ecosystem engineers themselves, badgers. There's foxes down there. I got my best ever photo of a green woodpecker there. Definitely otters. I've not got evidence yet, but I hypothesise that there's probably a holt either there or in the riverbank opposite, because the mum started taking their kits from there, and I had started seeing them in the evenings when I was doing the beavers. Over winter you get sort of big flocks of finches and redpolls and stuff down there, which has been brilliant. Bullfinch as well, which are particularly, and greenfinch. There's a barn owl that lives opposite the golf course in a sort of rundown barn, and it flies over and it hunts around the whole area at night, and I know barn owls are particularly on the decline at the moment. But yeah, there's loads of stuff that rely on that golf course, and it's a space we definitely need to protect for a lot of our breeding species.
The river is like a wonderful necklace, and that if you remove one of the links, then you've broken the necklace. And I know that Wiltshire Council are aware of the new legislation that's coming through from right across Europe and across the world to restore and renew biodiversity. And so our blue-green corridors are absolutely essential in this endeavour.
We're just part of a much larger group of corridor routes that all connect together, that allow wildlife to travel. And if we don't have these animal travels, we do not have the diversity that we have today.
My fear about the development of the site is that it does not help those people who are in housing need. I think it would serve a different community, and in the process it's lost to the wider community of Wiltshire and all our visitors and everything about this area that we treasure.
The access to that site really is not in any way adequate to support a large number of homes. It's already a very busy, congested area with lots of on-street parking, very narrow roads that go right past people's front doors and driveways. Adding more homes into that area is just going to increase that congestion, increase that pollution, make it a less safe place to live.
I feel like as a community we'd lose something that means quite a lot to us. We'd lose our space to walk our dogs. We may have some memories of our dog as a puppy, anything like that, stuff that means a lot to people, and it might even leave a feeling of sadness going around the area. You could be passing through that area and see the new build, which is quite frankly ugly compared to what is currently there, the lovely wild space, and a lot of places be like, oh, remember the time I used to be there, can't do that anymore. Everywhere has niches occupied, any wild space will have it. The bank the other side, the town centre, they'll all have birds divvied up into territories, and they'll rely on things, and if it's developed, some of them may well stay around, but a lot of stuff will lose its food source, or lose the insects it needs, the plants it needs for nesting in. Birds are always good to sort of refer back to because of where they are in the ecosystem. The mammals will probably relocate, but again, they will push into the territories of other animals, and then you may even see a decline elsewhere in other stuff, because you're going to have a lot more animals competing for the same amount of ecological space almost. And so, with the demolition of the golf course, or the turning of it into a new place, those animals are going to have to find space elsewhere. It's not just going to be what's on that golf course that's affected. I mean, fox is a good example. I've studied foxes a lot the last sort of 8-9 months. You could even end up with them like killing each other in territory battles. That would definitely happen with badgers, and probably foxes as well. They're so territorial. But yeah, stuff like that will just sort of off-put. You'll see a lot of that initially, and obviously something's going to lose out from it.
My advice to Wiltshire Council is to do some joined-up thinking. If we lose this blue-green corridor and build on it, it never gets wild again. And so that is lost forever. So I want Wiltshire Council to have a sense of pride in their heritage.
One doesn't have to develop here. In fact, I would put out the idea that if you build on a greenfield site, which in general terms people say we don't like to do, there's 20 plant species on a greenfield site. There's 190 in there. To me, it's a no-brainer as an ecologist.
Bradford and Avon hasn't got masses of land. I know that a lot of it's greenfield sites, but there are other places we could build which would not entail the loss of such biodiversity. And I think Wiltshire Council should take that very seriously.
In children's vocabulary, there are words that have gone from the English dictionary because of the loss of biodiversity. And this is sort of insidious. A lot of people haven't realised what's actually going on.
The golf course has great potential, I think, in terms of education. I was a great believer as a teacher of biology in getting children outside. And these days, with children more and more transfixed by screens, sitting indoors and not getting outside as they used to do, it's a great shame, I think. And to have a resource such as the golf course literally on our doorstep, it would be a wonderful resource for schools to use.
We have the most amazing long-term heritage in Wiltshire, with going right back to before the Stone Age. And so let's continue that recognition of our place in the world and really support the renewal and replenishment of nature in this county.
Yeah, I mean, I know that we're short of housing, and I do get that, but no, it just doesn't. There's surely better places to do it.
So I don't see it as a progressive thing to do. I would see it as a regressive thing to do, to build on this particular site.
But what we can do as a town council and as a community is make it really clear that we do not believe that would be a suitable site for large-scale development. We would like to see that land left or carefully managed to become an incredibly biodiverse place, a place that the whole community could potentially use, somewhere that would be a benefit to everybody across the town. And that's not saying we don't need development, it's just saying that it really shouldn't be on the old golf course.
So the people are behind you, Wiltshire Council, in wanting to restore and protect nature, and this is your opportunity. It is the wonderful bead in a beautiful necklace. Just keep it there.